What's up, YouTube? JTwoH back here for another video. Today I'm going to be doing 2006, A Year in TNA DVDs. And of course there's a cat cameo. Mr. Jack. Doesn't know anything about personal space. So without any further ado, we'll just dive in. Start off with Final Resolution, the first appearance of Sting. Or they'd like you to think it's the first appearance. First appearance on pay-per-view of Sting. He showed up back in 2003. The case is kind of in a wear. I think it got wet, but I've had these forever, so I might just buy a replacement. And it's just the cover, so. But anyway, we'll get right down to it. Now with 2006, before I get started, 2006 is when it really started picking it up for me. It's when it became my favorite wrestling company, was in 2006. So, obviously I have all of them, but these are the ones I bought as they were coming out. Some of them I didn't have access to, like Destination X and Sacrifice, because they were Shop TNA exclusive or whatever. So, but I remember watching all of these all the way through the first time I bought them. So without any further ado, a pre-show match, debut of LAX back when it was ran by Conan versus the Naturals there. X Division 6-man tag, Bobby Roode versus Ron the Truth Killings. The James Gang, oh man. Raven versus Sean Waltman. I think this was the beginning of the Raven Larry Zbyszko feud. Rhino and Abyss was pretty good. The Against All Us match was way better. AJ Styles versus Tanahashi was really good. AMW versus Team 3D. This is the match I liked between these two teams. I liked all of them, but this is my favorite one. Was on this one. Had a false finish that you never hear about, so it was really good. Joe and Daniels was good. And then you get Sting and Christian Cage versus Jeff Jarrett and Monty Brown. And man, does the crowd go nuts for Sting in this, as they should. You know, I was going nuts watching it. Of course, I didn't grow up with Sting. I just, you hear stuff about him. When Sting was popular, I was 1 and 2. So, of course, now looking back, I can fan out about it. So, Against All Odds, 2006. This one was a Best Buy exclusive that I bought with a gift card. But obviously, with a little spoiler on the cover there, Christian Cage beats Jeff Jarrett for the world title. Ron Killings and A1. I liked A1. They didn't do much with him, but I enjoyed his work. The Naturals versus Aries and Strong. X Division 4-way. The James Gang versus LAX that starts that feud. Although it really started at Turning Point last year. Rhino and Abyss and that Falls Count Anywhere. Man, look at that. That picture there. Crazy stuff. AMW versus Sabin and Sanjay Dutt. I don't remember that. The revenge match between Team 3D and Team Canada is pretty good. Joe and Daniels and AJ Styles again. I don't remember the rematch here. It might not have been. Obviously, it wasn't as good as our Unbreakable match, but I'm sure it was good. Definitely worth a watch, those three. And then Jeff Jarrett versus Christian Cage was pretty good, too. Definitely enjoyed Cage winning. Getting the win over Jarrett. So, this was actually the last pay-per-view DVD I bought. Aside from as they were coming out, because I could never find this, when I was younger for a decent price. So, I think with my tax returns last year, I ended up grabbing it. Lethal and Shelley, Hoyt and Bentley, Naturals and Team Canada, Bullet Bob Armstrong, and the James Gang versus LAX. I remember growing up, watching this first. As they keep going further and further with LAX, I remember being scared that some Mexican gang, not to be racist, like the LAX was going to just jump me. They actually, they did a pretty good job with the LAX, putting fear in, people. International X Showcase. The 8-man tag team war was really good. Was pretty good between Rhino, 3D, and The Truth versus Jarrett, AMW, and Abyss. Joe Styles and Daniels in the Ultimate X, which you don't see much of Joe on the Ultimate X for good reason, but it's actually interesting. I think I like this match better than their Against All Odds match. And then Christian Cage versus Monty Brown was good. Of course, the event known for the debut of Scott Steiner, so pretty good on this one. Walkdown 2006. One of my favorite Lockdowns. So this one starts off with an arm wrestling match between Conan and Bullet Bob Armstrong. I remember this was the loser gets strapped, and BG James goes and calls Kip James Billy, like Billy Gunn. And the announcers try to cover for him, so that was funny. I just remember that off the top of my head. Christopher Daniels and Senshi, Kaval, Loki, whatever you want to call him. So that was, the World X Cup preview match between Team USA and Team Japan. The escape match, always like the escape matches. An anthem match between 3D and Team Canada. The X Division Championship match, Samoa Joe and Sabu. That one was really cool. I like the contrast in styles there, especially Sabu wrestling for the X Division title. Lethal Lockdown, Sting, Styles, Rhino, and R-Truth. Ron Killing, sorry. Versus Jarrett, Scott Steiner, and America's Most Wanted. I didn't mind Scott Steiner in TNA. Obviously, as it goes on, it gets a little botchy and, his promos or whatever, so... But I didn't mind. He had some decent matches, and if they weren't decent matches, they used them decently well. So, and then Cage versus Abyss was really good. Wasn't as good as Abyss and AJ Styles the last year, but definitely a good lockdown here. So then it goes right into Sacrifice 2006. Cage versus Abyss again. This one was another Shop TNA exclusive, so I didn't get my hands on this till later. Jushin Liger and P.D. Williams, Raven and A1, Rhino and Bobby Roode, James Gang vs. Team 3D, World X Cup Gauntlet match, AMW vs. AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels. I liked that feud. Sting and Samoa Joe versus Jeff Jarrett and Scott Steiner. And then you don't hear much about that match. Just about the four-way at Victory Road. And then Christian Cage versus Abyss for the X Division, for the world title in a Full Metal Mayhem match. I liked the Full Metal Mayhem match between those two. Wasn't the best match, but I think it was of the night. It just wasn't the best match ever. So Sacrifice was pretty good. Leads right into Slammiversary 2006. And I've had this DVD forever. I think it went, the way I got them, it went Final Resolution and then Lockdown and then this one, because they just came to Best Buy, so I grabbed them when I was a lot younger. The Naturals versus Team Canada, X Division rankings match. Yeah, that didn't pan out very well. Bingo Hall brawl between Team 3D and the James Gang. Rhino versus Bobby Roode and Coach D'Amore. Challenge match, Sabin and Kevin Nash. That started the Nash versus X Division feud right there. AMW versus AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels. I remember the moment I learned that they won, I was on. Obviously, I couldn't watch it. I was younger and we didn't have pay-per-view, so I remember going on their website, just clicking refresh till I see who won, and then seeing Styles and Daniels win, I went like nuts. I was so excited for them. Joe versus Steiner, and then King of the Mountain match between Cage, Sting, Jarrett, Abyss, and The Truth. Again, I love the King of the Mountain match. It's one of my favorite matches. So, but I mean, the end was kind of screwy. It just leads into, basically just erases the previous months as far as Cage with the title and puts it right back on Jarrett. But I don't mind Jarrett as champion either, so. Victory Road 2006. The Naturals versus the Diamonds in the Rough. Rhino versus Monty Brown. LAX versus Truth and Dutt. Team Canada bands. I think this is after they lost that match. They just did a goodbye thing. Senshi versus Kazarian, that sounds awesome. Raven versus Larry Zbyszko, as you can see there. So hair versus hair. Sabin and Lethal versus Nash and Shelley. Team 3D versus the James Gang and Abyss. I think that's all three Team 3D members, including Brother Runt. Styles, Daniels, and Surrealda. Couldn't even tell you who that was. Versus AMW and Gail Kim. And then the Road to Victory match was a number one contenders match between Sting, Cage, Joe, and Scott Steiner. So it was a decent event. You don't hear much about Victory Road or the following one here with Hard Justice. That's a goofy looking color. You get two different colors there depending on the glare. So, Hardcore Justice 2006. Starts off with Eric Young versus Johnny Devine. Sabin, Shelley, Abyss, Brother Runt, Joe versus Rhino versus the Alpha Male. That was a good match if I recall. Gail Kim versus Surreal again. See, I don't remember who that was. Senshi Williams and Lethal. Styles versus Daniels versus LAX. Here's when the LAX Styles Daniels feud started, which is when I was like, because you see him border toss AJ Styles, and as a younger person, I was terrified. I was like, holy shit. And then you get Jarrett versus Sting with Steiner and Cage ringside. So it was almost booked like a fatal four-way between the four of them, but it was just the two. It wasn't supposed to have interference, yada yada. So, Hardcore Justice 2006. Right into No Surrender 2006, which is where they started with this logos on the spine, which I really like. Although I don't mind the white only on the spine, I like the logos too. So, this one is notorious for the Ultimate X match for the tag team titles is the best match of this night. And for a while in their pay-per-views, it was a really good match. Bobby Roode versus Von Doring. Eric Young versus A1, both of Team Canada. Peter Williams versus Jay Lethal. Abyss versus Raven versus Brother Runt was pretty good. Triple Chance Tag Team Battle Royal. Senshi versus Chris Sabin. Christian Cage as a heel versus Rhino. This is after he turned heel. I think it was because of what happened to Hard Justice. The Ultimate X match between LAX and Christopher Daniels. And Samoa Joe versus Jeff Jarrett. And this event is notorious for two things. The Ultimate X match, and then the announcement of Kurt Angle. Which, again, just got me all gung-ho and put me over the top on TNA. I was like, holy shit, I need everything TNA right now. So I started, obviously I was already recording it because I came on at like Saturday at 11 p.m. And as a kid, 10, 11, 9, however old I was, 2006, 12, I couldn't stay up that late. So I would record it. But then this event was, I was so excited for Bound for Glory 2006. See, but then they put Bound for Glory's logo up here. It's so weird when they do their spines. But they don't release them in chronological order either, so maybe that's why they went back and put it on the spine. Anyway, so we ordered this on pay-per-view. This is the first one I ever watched live. So, I really liked this event. The Kevin Nash Open Invitational X Division Gauntlet Battle Royal. 3D AMW James Gang versus the Naturals. Monsters Ball, Jake the Snake. Abyss versus Joe versus Runt versus Raven. Loser gets fired between Eric Young and Larry Zbyszko. That was the Don't Fire Eric phase. Oh, that was great. Senshi versus Sabin for the X title. 8-mile street fight between Rhino and Christian Cage. 6 Sides of Steel between AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels versus LAX. And then the big one, Jarrett versus Sting with Kurt Angle as a special enforcer. He doesn't do much as a special enforcer except for show up and get a huge pop. But I liked this event. It was out of Detroit too, so had this been, had I been a little older, I would have loved to have gone to this. But, So then, Genesis 2006, Kurt Angle's debut match for TNA. And then the logo's on the side. Obviously, they did the top a little different on this DVD, but it's alright. The Voodoo Kin Mafia, so the James Gang, just under a different name, with a parody of the VKM, so Vince McMahon, versus Bentley, Divine, and Kazarian. The Naturals versus Lethal and Dutt. Daniels versus Sabin. Ron the Truth Killings, and Lance Hoyt versus Alex Shelley and Austin Starr, or Aries. AJ Styles vs. Christian Cage was pretty good. LAX vs. America's Most Wanted was pretty good. Sting vs. Abyss, with Abyss going over for whatever reason, I don't know. Sting always had such short reigns with TNA, I could never figure it out. But he loses on disqualification, but NWA, so he loses the title. And then Kurt Angle vs. Joe was pretty good. I really liked that match. I liked all their matches, I always do. Even on, like, the TNA 10 DVD, just those two in the ring together is great. Then he got into another Best Buy exclusive and Turning Point 2006 with the rematch, Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. So another base brawl stuff. And you guys know how I feel about that. Not the greatest, not my favorite thing, but They got an X Division match between Senshi, Star, Shelley, Dutt, and Lethal. Bikini contest between Miss Brooks and Eric Young. I remember that. I think they have a picture of it. No, they don't. That one's pretty funny. Really no point, but it's funny. X Division title between Daniels and Sabin again. Rhino versus AJ Styles. LAX versus America's Most Wanted in a flag match. See, I didn't mind the LAX versus the AMW feud. I liked LAX versus Daniels and Styles way better. Abyss, Christian Cage, and Sting won the triple threat, the first triple threat between the three of them. And then Kurt Angle versus Joe, the rematch. I think I liked Turning Point better than Genesis, but other than that, 2006 was a. Other than that, 2006 was a good year for TNA. It's one of my favorite years, and I feel like that's goofy. See, it's just like they're goofy with the logos there, but whatever. But I feel like after this year, and then the next, they just kept building on and getting better, and I was more into what they were doing and super excited about it. But this is the year really I fell in love with TNA. 2004, you know, I was paying attention. 2005 piqued my interest. 2006 I fell in love, and I've been in love with TNA forever, since then. So, but anyway, guys, if you liked this video, like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to check out the other videos I've done with 2004, 2005. Be sure to stay tuned in for other years like 2007, 8, 9, all the way up to current. Be sure to look. I got a TNA DVD coming in the mail that I think you guys will like. So, 2 of them actually. So, other than that, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you later, YouTube.